if you're thinking about buying a waterfront home on Lake Greenwood for retirement, for your second home, or just for a place to have fun with the grandkids on summer days, there are some things that you need to know before you buy. Hey y'all, I'm Jason McClendon with McClendon Realty right here in Greenwood, South Carolina. And today we'll be talking about who owns Lake Greenwood and how that makes Lake Greenwood different. Now, I grew up here on Lake Greenwood as a kid. I was fishing here and skiing. Spent a lot of fun summer days here in high school. And after that, I started working with a real estate waterfront land developer. And I went all over the Southeast, and going all over the Southeast, seeing all these different lakes, maybe a little biased, but I found out that Lake Greenwood really is kind of a little bit of a diamond in the rough. It's a special place. I would say that the number one thing that makes Lake Greenwood different is that Greenwood County owns Lake Greenwood. And to me, that's the foundation. That's the number one thing that makes it different. So the first thing we'll talk about is what makes Lake Greenwood different, and that's the 440 mark of ownership. When Greenwood County purchased Lake Greenwood back in I think it was in the mid-1930s, they finished it in 1940, Lake Greenwood, or Greenwood County, purchased property up to the 440 mark, which is feet above sea level. So the way that I explain it, and this is just the way I look at it, there's probably 20 different ways, as a line graph. Like if you have a line graph and you got that arch going up or that arc going up, you kind of, if you want to see that number where it hits, you go across. So the little marks that go across, that's your waterfront feet. Just think of it that way. So like you would have 434, 435. And then what Greenwood County did is they got a surveyor to go around and they surveyed wherever the land hit at 440 is the property line. So wherever it hit, that is now the vertical property line. So the property line on Lake Greenwood curves with that mark in the majority of areas. But there are some exceptions, therefore you'd always want to do your due diligence on that. But in general, that makes Lake Greenwood a lot different than like some of your core of engineer lakes where your house site might have to be off 300 foot, or you can't manage right up to the lake. You might ask, why does that matter to a buyer? Well, it matters because it dictates what you can do, where you can do it, the permitting that will be required, and it will show you your property line, exactly where your property starts and where the lake starts. So the number two thing that we're going to discuss today of what makes Greenwood a little different, because Greenwood County owns it, is the permitting process. Like, what can you do? I'm out here on a property today. I'm actually standing on Greenwood County property, by the way, because the 440 mark is back here. And you can see that there is seawalls, and behind me there's a stationary dock. So Greenwood County allows you to do permitting, as far as permitting, being here in Greenwood County and going and seeing Miss Julie Davis, who is our lake management person, walking in her office and being able to discuss things with somebody that is local, that works for the county, it's a huge advantage. It's so much easier than trying to get permitting online, making phone calls where you got to call 4 or 5 people to get the right person. It's just a really simple process. And again, these are all things that you can do before you buy to make sure that the property that you have, if it doesn't have a dock, that you can have a dock. If the property you have has a dock but doesn't have the water depth that you want, that you can extend it. So all these are things that, if I was working with a buyer, I would encourage them to put that in their due diligence, so we can make sure that the property they have chosen works for their needs. So the number three thing that I would say makes Lake Greenwood different, because Greenwood County owns it, is that Greenwood County has a lake level lake curve. Now I have a video out there about lake levels. If you hadn't watched it, go watch it. Got really detailed on how to explain that. Right now on January the 29th, we're one day from the water starting to go back up. And today, before I got out here, I looked and the water level was 434.5. if you go look at that lake curve, today it's supposed to be 434 and a half, so it is dead on. First thing you got to identify is how am I going to use the lake? And so the water level plays a lot of role in that. So if you were wanting to fish in the wintertime for those 2 months that it drops all the way down, this place would not be for you. But if you're looking for a great view and a place for the grandkids to swim, this could be the perfect spot. Great sandy bottom, plenty of water depth in the summer. We just got to figure out what's your goals and how it fits you. But Greenwood County, staying on top of it. The lake is not dropping. You know, there's a lake in Tennessee that dropped 40 foot. And I mean, the docks were just hanging off the edge of these cliffs. And I was just blown away by the way it dropped. Also, you know, some of your core lakes, there's no curve there. There's no expectations. If they need the water, they use it at the dam. If they need more power, if there's a drought. Lake Greenwood, owned by Greenwood County, and Greenwood County controlling the lake level is definitely something that makes Lake Greenwood a lot different than a lot of the lakes. And that brings us to point 4. Probably the most overlooked benefit, in my opinion, of Lake Greenwood is Lake Greenwood being owned by Greenwood County is in reality owned by the taxpayers of Greenwood. And so since local taxpayers have stake in the way that the lake looks and the way the lake's treated, and also what the lake does economically for Greenwood in general, not just lake use, but there's nothing to be out on the lake and meet somebody from North Carolina that's here fishing and maybe out here for a weekend on an Airbnb. So people of Greenwood recognize what Lake Greenwood offers, not just as a recreation to us personally, but also as an economical tool for Greenwood and what it brings in business-wise. And I think that really sets Lake Greenwood apart than most lakes. There's just something different about it, and it's probably something you won't see when you visit, or you won't feel. But once the buyers own here and once they purchase, it's amazing just how I hear back from my clients, and they're all just, they can't stop talking about the community feel and the town feel and how people really love the lake and what everybody does for the lake. And of course, if you're buying or selling on Lake Greenwood, either myself or anyone at McClendon Realty would love to help you. And I'll be honest, there's just nothing like getting on my boat, clients in there with me, and us spending the day on the lake looking at waterfront property. It's one of the things that I love most about my job. So if you have any questions, feel free to give us a call. And I guess that's it. So we'll see you next time.